Episode 16 of Avatar The Last Airbender, named The Deserter, is nothing special, frankly. And it honestly seems to be a fan favorite these days, at least among the first season. It has a lot of cool factor, I know. Roku scenes, the firebending is the best up to this point by far. I can't even think of another incident that comes close. But behind the curtain, there's no real substance. That is why this week I will explain why The Deserter is overrated by the fandom. But first, don't forget to like and subscribe this video. And if you want to see more episode breakdowns, I drop one each week. So stay tuned for that. Without further ado, let's get right into it. The opening of this episode resembles a lot of others in this first season. The gang just hanging out and just taking this as it comes, let's say. They're not really camping now, but they are moving through the forest and they come across these wanted posters. Yeah, it makes sense that they would have these. These are Fire Nation colonies in the Earth, in the colonized or taken Earth Kingdom territories. And it's a funny interaction where they're comparing themselves. Yeah, it's nice. I do wonder why they are traveling through captured Earth Kingdom territory, not proper Earth Kingdom territory, deeper inland, so they can just avoid. They do have Appa, they could fly. I always wondered that, why are they even in Fire Nation territory or in Fire Nation colonies when they could travel much safer and not be having to put on disguises or anything? Why are they even there? I don't know. Why don't they go around? Or it's not even around, because around. Okay, I'll stop. But the good thing with this opening is we get more Fire Nation culture. I wished it was delved a little deeper into, though. They don't really talk to anybody there or Fire Nation or anything about like how they are adjusting to living in another city or in another country. I guess it's called another nation. Let's say nation. And we do see that firebending is more than just fighting. It's art, it's performance, it's magician. It's a really interesting concept for firebending. It makes sense that if you had firebending, it would be more of an everyday thing. I do feel like it's a little rushed. We don't spend enough time at the festival to really delve deep into that. Really comes back to haunt the Fire Nation culture, and that fact that we don't get to really talk about it. And the guy, I can't really remember his name, and I saw the episode only like an hour ago. The guy the ex-soldier that saved them, he barely gets to introduce himself. He just like turns around and says his name and then just moves on. I feel like they could have introduced him or involved him more naturally or more slowly, because I feel like it was just so quick. And it works for the episode. They try to do it like this one episode. It's only 20 or 25 minutes or whatever, so I get it. But that's why I wish it was 2 episodes. Maybe this was an arc or 3 episodes, but we'll get to that later. If we move on to Aang, the Roku scene, amazing. We really get to see Roku in his like full avatar form, and really the power he holds even in his death, and even 100 years later than his death. Like, it's a great scene. The dichotomy between Aang and Roku, after he says like, after Jeong agrees, it's just funny. And yeah, it's a great shot when it all comes dark and Roku comes out. It's a great shot. When it comes to training scenes, the montage actually feels pretty good. Can be rushed often in many shows or movies. Often in movies, because they don't have time, they just do a little action scene after the second act in the beginning of the third, so they can get ready for the third act finale. Here, it doesn't really feel that rushed. They do, like, it feels a little slow. The pacing is good. The fact that he's eager to learn firebending, it feels a little unnatural. Like, I feel like he hasn't been that eager to learn waterbending. And I know airbending is the path of least resistance, so it makes sense he like takes the shortest path and doesn't work hard. But it isn't really shown that he's not a hard worker when it counts. Before, he's often most like when it doesn't matter, he's a kid, but when he has to put on his responsibility, you have to take things seriously, he does. And we really got to show that throughout the season. So I maybe this episode would have been better placed earlier in the season for that to work. He is a master of airbending, so he has some discipline. Otherwise, he wouldn't be the youngest airbending master of all time. They trying too hard to make Chow and Aang comparison with the fact that he's unresponsible. And speaking about Chow, he is assassinated in this episode, and he was like a snake, a calculating, force, little evil man, you know. But now he's just a bull running towards the red flag, and the final fight just makes the final fight tedious and annoying, because this is not where I wanted Zhao to go. I wanted him to be more conniving, and that's just not what we get. If we go back to Aang for a second, the fear of firebending he gains from this is the main thing the main character arc or moment for Aang in this episode. It takes with him throughout the season, but it doesn't change the story in any way. It doesn't have any impact, except maybe a few lines here or there. The Sun Wars episode, I think, would be exactly the same. Doesn't really matter. The fear of him learning firebending is just really useless, and I feel like it's just a bad excuse for him to learn the other two bendings before. But I feel like they had a natural one by there's not being too many firebendings, so I feel like it was unnecessary. The burning scene of Katara is pretty good, and I love her emotion. I feel like Sokka overreacted. If we talk about the siblings for a second, I feel like Sokka overreacted a little bit, because I feel like they've known each other too much, and I know Sokka knew it was an accident. I know it's his sister, but I felt a little overreacted. Although it could be valid, I just felt a little overreacting. And Sokka is super funny. This episode has several great lines, the masks, and I'll take up a few more samples later. But when it comes to Jeong, our main man, the bending explanations he gets is great. Explaining how fire is different, love that, love to see it. And yeah, it's cool. The nerd in me loves him. The power, the design, the mysteriousness of the character. Yeah, I just love him. But then if we go accurate to the character, like, yeah, he's jaded from the war or from the Fire Nation. You really get the feeling that he's tortured or seen the war. But other than that, you know, he's really flat. It's just some sort of honor, respect, but we don't get too much. Yeah, I just wish, as I said before, it was several episodes to really flesh out Jeong to the fullest capabilities. I feel like he's such an interesting character, more interesting than Boomy ever was, honestly. And I feel like there's more to delve deep in. I honestly wish Jeong was there for more episodes, or came back in season 2 or season 3 more than he does, so we could really flesh out his character. Last and probably least, we'll move on to Katara. Doesn't get much, just the burn scene feels pretty realistic. How she like shivers in the water when she puts it in, that's just really relatable. And the healing comes pretty natural, a good scene for her. And that's pretty much everything she gets, because the other things in the episode, she doesn't really get to do anything other than that. But I do, the one good scene for her, or the one real scene for her, is pretty amazing. And yeah, overall, I think the humor was a real standout in this episode. Switching masks after the buy-in, pretty funny. Aang trying to upstage him, or not trying to, but did upstage him, and then him asking, is pretty funny. Went without a hitch, that's pretty funny joke as well. And Sokka was just magical in this one, just several hitters, and again they just delivered the humor, especially Sokka. The festival, nice scenes, needed more. As I said in that said before, the whole episode there, maybe we could have just, if Jeong lived in the city, maybe, so we could have just like gone and went from the festival, or like everything's spent in that one night or something. I feel like that would have been more interesting to have that setting. The setting at the camp isn't that really interesting at all. It's just a little hut. I can't really, but I feel like the festival was more interesting of an idea and a concept. The training, good scenes, nice pacing, but nothing special. Jeong is cool, but he doesn't do much other than just like being a brooding, jaded guy. I feel like I've seen him many times. He has got so many potential, but that's why he needed more episodes. And yeah, he teaches a little firebending philosophy, but I feel like Iroh does that already. I feel like he says the same things. Honestly, maybe it's a little different perspective, so I don't feel like it's completely useless, but it could have definitely been just taken away or cut without any issues. So I feel like if you're going to do this character, I feel like you should do him properly. And he disappears to show like the end of the episode, and the magic trick is pretty nice foreshadowing with the magic in the beginning. Pretty cool. And same with Aang's fears of firebending, that also disappears for the rest of the show. So I don't know about that. If we want to fix this episode, the first thing, as I told many times this episode, have Jeong along for a few more episodes. More natural training, get to spend more time with Fire Nation culture, learn more about him. I was thinking 2-3 episodes, maybe like they meet him this episode, get a full episode, and then they like split it off. Maybe I feel like destructively split off, in my mind at least. Cut the weird guy, I can't even remember his name, doesn't add anything to the episode. We already had the old trooper thing with Jeong, so I feel like that's just a secondary character that's like should offer the same. But if you're gonna do 2 people from the Fire Nation at the same time, they should have been very like opposites or very far removed from each other, so you see the different perspectives. I feel like that is not done here. Just give him more a substantial role if you're gonna include him. This is just like too little to count. So either increase his time, have him more time with the gang and Jeong, or cut him completely. The final joke about him, everyone just disappearing, is kind of funny though. That's the one contribution to this episode he has. The final fight slash Chow, I would change. Don't assassinate his character. Keep him this conniving little snake in the grass. Keep him smart, resourceful. That is what I want from Chow. I do not want just an Osai, a B level Osai, not even a B level, like a C level Osai for my character. It doesn't make sense. The student master connection does nothing. They should have done something with that. So that's my changes. But yeah, the Deserter is pretty mediocre, pretty average when it comes to season 1 in my opinion. Does not reach the highs of something like Je. If you haven't seen it, go watch that. I made a video about it a few weeks ago. And not as low as something like The Great Divide. Also made a video about that. Go watch that. Comment down below where you think the Deserter places. Is it underrated or is it overrated? Maybe it's perfectly rated. Please hit the like button if you like this video. It really helps me out as a small creator and I really appreciate it. Subscribe and hit the bell if you want to see next week's episode about the fortune teller. I think it's going to be a good one. But until next time, I hope you have a great week.